Hi, it's Peggy at Headshots by Peggy, and again, John SWANBECK is here, and we have some questions that he's going to answer today. It's going to be fun. One day we will do this vlog in person again.
Yes, we will. I don't know. Maybe Zoom is here to stay.
Well, I think there's going to be some things that we'll be able to continue to do on Zoom that that won't be as bad.
I'll bet auditions stay on Zoom.
I think they will for a long time, a long, maybe forever time.
I think they like it.
Yeah.
You know, it's simpler, it's easier.
From an actor's point of view, I think the positive is they don't have to drive and fight traffic and find parking and rush in, hoping that their car doesn't get towed and, come back out. But I know it's still, I think a lot of actors still like the in-person audition, but they're going to get used to this just like they get used to everything else.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's interesting when I talk to them, the big issue I find they're having is where do they look? Because the person they're reading with is over there up in the corner in a little box, and they know that's bad eye line. And so they're supposed to look over here. So they're not really looking at an actor. They're looking at a spot on the wall. And that freaks them out because they can't be real and connect with the other actor and respond to the other actor in the same way they could before. So that's what I encounter as their biggest, challenge with it is where do they look? Where's the eye line?
So the Road Theater does their Summer Playwrights Festival, and they did it all via Zoom this year. And that was one of the things that kept coming up in the talkbacks because they would, do interactive scenes. But, like right now, if I look at you, you're over here. But when people are watching it, you're actually going to be over here. And so, and it's the same thing. I have problems like, where am I supposed to look just doing this vlog? It's something, but people will learn. It'll become instinctual eventually. We're in the, early stages of this, just like anything else. We will figure it out, right?
Well, we're in the early stages of it, but it's interesting to me how fast it's developing. When all of this started and we were all suddenly thrown onto Zoom, casting directors said, I remember them saying this in the spring. They were saying, don't go crazy spending money or spending time or have too many production values. We just want it raw. Well, they're not saying that anymore.
No.
Because they realize that the actors will pop more if they put a little thought into the production value. Just a little thought and a little time and a little money, just a little bit. But they really want some kind of a backdrop now because the detail behind the person is distracting. Now, I have a lot of detail here, but they're sort of creative things that I have, and I've tried to sort of frame myself with them.
Uh-huh.
But actors, if they're doing an audition and there's, a bed behind them or a bureau or something or a picture on the wall, the human eye is the human eye. And they'll absolutely be distracted. So some sort of backdrop that's plain but ideally textured, and they'll pop more, and there won't be so much distraction. So it was very interesting to me when they first said, "Oh, don't worry about those things," and now they're saying, "Wait a minute, you should be looking professional."
Well, because the handful of actors that already had this down pat, they were seeing the difference. They were like, "Oh, wait, we actually can't just look at your acting when we're distracted by everything else." Right. I know in the beginning, Merrick was getting audition notices that said, must be filmed, no backdrops, must be filmed, because they were not wanting people to take a risk and going out or feeling like they were. Right. And of course we have the studio here that we do all the self-tapes in. So we were like, are we not supposed to use the backdrop? So like we were kind of, clearing a wall and doing it in the house just because we felt like they were trying to give everyone an even playing ground. But it's to the point now where it's like, yeah, you're going to have to invest the $20 for this and then, figure out your light.
The lighting needs to look good. The sound needs to look good. The backdrop be something that you'll pop against, but you can actually do it for very little money.
Very little money. You can go and, get a sheet and iron it, get a steamer or an iron, and that's fine. You don't have to spend money on an expensive backdrop, but don't be lazy and leave all the harsh wrinkles in it. Get an iron. It's not, I mean, it's going to take the elbow grease, do the work. You don't have to spend the money, but you do have to do the work, make it look professional.
Yes, take out those wrinkles by all means, because they are distracting.
Oh my God.
And try to pin your sheet so it's taut.
Yeah.
Somehow have the backdrop be taut, so that it's not too distracting. But otherwise, a nice textured look or just a plain sheet. I know some people that are using for a light, they get a utility light at Home Depot. It's $7.
Mm-hmm.
And they put some parchment paper or baking paper on it, and it's beautiful. It's like a
absolutely because a parchment paper is it'll handle the heat of a light bulb, and B, it's going to diffuse that light and help that light wrap, or get an umbrella, put it, take the time to buy a light bulb that's more white and not yellow. All these things are very inexpensive. You don't have to go buy $100 worth of lights,
Right.
but put a little studying into it and figure out how to do it.
Yeah, because the casting directors want, they do want decent lighting, decent sound, and sort of, a decent experience. So it's interesting to me how that's sort of changed since the spring, when you were right. They said, oh, don't worry about it, because they wanted a fair playing field. But everyone is we're so involved with Zoom these days for everything. You were just talking about the theater company. You went to a Zoom experience there. I'm sure you and Merrick do that a lot. There's all kinds of readings, and everything's on Zoom now. So people are starting to get savvy about it.
Oh yeah, they're doing really cool things like passing, looking like you're passing a paper from one to another, or doing really creative stuff. But it takes some time, and you have to figure out, wait, you look like you're here, but I know you're here. And
well, the other thing, actors should actually count their blessings, because there's something about when actors, this idea that they love to connect with the other actor and make eye contact and connect, and that's a part of the experience, and it comes from their wonderful process. But unless they're experienced with the camera, and they know that you have to both connect to the other character, but also let the camera experience your eyes and learn how to create from inside, so it comes out through the eyes. A lot of them will just be like eye locked on the other character, and they don't look like they're in a movie, or they don't look like they belong on camera. And if you take the character out of there and have them look at some dot on the wall, eyes are going to look more like they belong in a movie. It's like we talked about when they do their headshots, and they're not looking at another actor, they're looking right at the camera. And so they're not trying to connect with somebody, and their eyes have this cinematic movie-like look, and then they go into the audition and they connect with the other actor, and it goes away. So that's actually, it's a benefit of the whole Zoom experience that I don't think they really realize yet, but they'll end up looking more like they belong in a movie, because more will be able to come out of their eyes if they're not trying to make that connection, So I find that interesting too.
so we ask our viewers to send us questions, and I'm going to interrupt you because the last two things you have brought up have been questions that people have asked, and I didn't even show you what these questions were. So I'm going to start with the questions, and you'll laugh. Yeah, like question number 4 talks about the eye contact. Well, we're gonna go ahead and start. All right, are you ready? We're putting John on the hot seat. He's gonna answer these questions from you guys. So the first one is, what adjustments should actors make between doing a close-up shot and a wide shot? Like in their scene when they're doing a close-up shot and the wide shot, what adjustments need to be made?
There are two answers to that question. The first answer is none. And the reason, I'll explain the first answer first. The reason a lot of actors think that in the wide shot they get to move more, and they don't get to move so much in the close-up, If you're moving in the wide shot but not in the close-up, we're not going to be able to edit that footage together. So physically, in the wide shot, you're doing pretty much the same exact thing you're doing in the close-up so that we can cut the footage together. But in a wide shot, we're not paying attention to really the character and what's going on. We're paying attention to the scenery or the geography of the room or the geography of the movement. We're not really thinking about the characters, and so therefore we're not thinking about the acting. You're part of a much bigger picture. But in order to edit that wide shot with the close shot, you can't be moving around in the wide shot and then we cut to the close shot, or we get to the close-up and you're not moving at all. It would just be weird. So in that sense, the answer is none. And I talk to a lot of actors who, they know they have to really be still for the most part in close-ups, but they say, or I'll talk to them about cinematic stillness and they'll say, oh, but that's different for the wide shot. We get to move a lot. I don't know what is it with actors. They just want to move all the time. They're just dying to move all the time. If they really understood how little movement they can get away with on camera. So that's the first answer to that. You can't have more movement. You can't have more business. You can't do that. The second answer is because the closer we get to the character, the more involved we are with the character. We get to see more going on in your eyes. We obviously are not paying attention to the eyes at all if we can even see them in a wide shot. In a close shot, in a close-up shot, it's all about the eyes. Or as I like to say, in a close-up, your face is the landscape and the special effects are the emotions in your eyes. So it's all about what you're creating internally, psychologically, emotionally, with thought and feelings, and then letting it come out through the eyes. So in terms of the second answer is a lot. There's a lot that's different between the wide shot and the close-up, but it's all in the interior in terms of what the character's experiencing. And most filmmakers, a lot of filmmakers like the wide shots because they can do visual things. But in terms of storytelling, and certainly for a lot of TV, the goal is to get to the wide shot. Get to the close-up, because everything happens in the close-up. I remember hearing, we think of Game of Thrones, we think of epic, big sets, wide shots, all this kind of action. And the filmmakers I heard talking once, and they said the whole point of every episode was to get to the close-up, because the story is told in the close-up. The character's stories are told in the close-up. We're not really identifying with them until they're in the close-up, and we're not really experiencing them. We're not really getting, because the camera can read your heart, your mind, and your soul. And so that's where it's the story on camera. It's the character's heart, mind, and soul. So in terms of movement, no difference. In terms of what you're creating, there's a big difference. So when you get to the wide shot, when you get to the close shot, you create very differently than you create in the wide shot. If you create in the wide shot the way you create in the close-up, you're wasting your time. No one's going to see it. So you develop, there are a lot of cinematic techniques for developing close-up work, but that's where it all happens inside.
Very good. That was very informative. I like that, because I think a couple, maybe it was last month or 2 months ago, you had said something and I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way, talking about this very thing. You were saying that in the close-up, there is the emotions are maybe not as intense. I think I was saying, like, if it's a super intense scene, and I thought it would be backwards, and you were like, no, because in a close-up, it's all about the emotions, not the actions or the reactions physically.
Think about it. The cameras, that's right.
Yeah.
Think about it. The cameras, from a wide shot to a close-up shot, the camera's getting closer and closer and closer. And it's in the close-up that is when we get to know your character the best. So the camera's moving closer and closer and closer, and then it gets to the close-up, and there's only one place for it to go, inside you. And what you're doing with your eyes has to lure it in, pull it in, and so that the camera can go basically right inside the actor and the character and experience your heart, your soul, your mind. So.
Because after all, the eyes are the gateway to the soul, right?
Eyes are the gateway. The eyes are the gateway to the soul. No, the eyes are the windows to the soul. And what I say is the eyes are the windows to the soul and the voice is the gateway.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I was talking in my classes a lot this weekend about how to use the voice on camera because that's something actors never think about. And a lot of the experience in terms of creating on camera and the audience experience, it's a lot more voice oriented than actors realize. They don't think about it. There's very specific things you need to do on camera if you want to sound like you're in a movie. So
True.
that's why I say the voice is the gateway.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, ready? Why do actors need to stand close together when they're filming?
Well, that has a lot to do with the camera. I mean, this experiment you should try yourselves. You should think about it's because it's photography, and you can answer this more than I can probably. It's photography, and if you have too much space, there's too much. It doesn't look well composed. Now, unless that's the shot, unless you want to create the idea that there's distance in this relationship, and then you can put distance between them in a shot. But otherwise, the composition, it's just not attractive if there's all this space all around the actors, which is why you'll see two actors in a scene walking down the hallway, and they're so close to each other, and they're not walking normally. They're walking. They're almost trying to not bump into each other, but they have to stay very close to each other, and it's actually a skill. You can't just meander down the hallway. You're walking very close to each other because it's just better for the photography. It's better for the shot. It's better for the composition. So they should watch that when they watch actors like in a TV show or movie walking down the hall, two people walking and talking. They're really close to each other. And you can tell the way they're walking. It's very specific. They're not walking naturally. Otherwise, it would just look weird.
I think people, and this is something you and I talk about a lot, is knowing how you look on camera, because a camera lens is different than an eyeball. And the way it perceives space is different than, so in order for the camera to perceive a normal amount of space between someone, so it's one of those things you need to know. It depends on what length of lens the cameraman is using. I mean, there's all these different factors that go into it. But yes, when you're doing a scene and they want you almost nose to nose, and then when you watch it, you're like, oh, it looks like two normal people talking.
Right.
That's knowing how you look on camera.
Yeah, you said that, and I love that that quote when you said the camera is not the same as the eyeball, and I think about that from time to time since you said it. But it's photography. It's not life. It's not like we're just turning on a camera to record a scene or to record something like life. It's photography, like you said. It's visually more appealing.
Yeah, it's an art form, and actors need to work with that to express their art form. It's something that we all work together with.
And they need to think about it so they look like they know what they're doing.
Exactly. Exactly.
A job interview an audition is a job interview to see if you can make a film tape work. And if you don't have a sense of like they say, a film set is not film school. They don't want to teach you. So, you learn it, but you have to sort of accept it and go along with it.
Yeah. All right. What can actors do to keep their impact when the other actor they're talking to is off camera and not even on set with them? So I think you kind of mentioned this, because that would be through a Zoom call, or that could just be if they're doing a green screen scene, or now I think when productions are starting to open up, they're doing a lot of things where they're filming separately. You're actually not on set together. So how can they keep that impact? In other words, where's your eyes supposed to be, and how can you keep that impact when you're you know, looking at a screen, or your acting partner isn't on set.
Well, they'll tell you where to look. The DP will tell you where to look. They'll point that out for you. But it's what the actor's doing creatively that is something they should be concerned about. And like I was saying earlier, a lot of their process is being able to connect with the other actor, and I get something from you and you get something from me, and we're really two actors connecting, and isn't it great? And that's more the actor's experience. But I watched someone film something once. One actor didn't show up on set because something came up with another project. And so the one actor said, and this was, a well-known actor, he said, just roll the camera. And he went through and he did all of his moments and all of his lines exactly as if the other character had been there. And it cut in perfectly to the movie. I was stunned. But I think, and this is going to be the topic of I do a little mini talk before all of my classes, like a mini lecture. And this is going to be the topic for next week. They need to imagine. Their process has put them in their head, and it's a very intellectual process, and they don't use their imagination as much anymore. They need to make believe the other person is there. I'm always saying to myself, actors are obsessed with making it real, and I think, when did make believe become make it real? We've lost the ability to make believe. We lost the ability to imagine. And I was coaching someone last night, and she was saying, how do I get into the emotional stuff very quickly? And if I'm in the studio, because she's a spoken word artist, and she was saying, if I'm in the studio and I can't access it emotionally because I've got all these things going on, but I need to do it quickly because the studio is expensive. And I had this talk with her, and she's so concerned with making it real, making the emotion real, and that can either take a long time or not happen at all. And it's one of the reasons actors are frustrated, and they need to imagine more. They need to make believe more, and that should be even fun for them. And if they're really well trained and their process is really as good as I think it is, we all think it is, they're going to be real, but they've lost that ability to imagine because their process puts them in their head. It's why they'll do a scene, and I'll be working with an actor, and they'll do a scene, and then they'll look at the footage and they'll go, huh. Because they'll say, it really felt like it was inside of me. It really felt real. It felt like it was happening, but I don't see it there. And it's because it's stuck inside of them. They were trained to, as long as it feels real to you, it's real. And that doesn't happen. It has to feel real to you, but it also has to be believable to us. So they need to make a leap. And this is something I teach in my classes all the time, because they don't get it from their acting classes. Their acting classes are very scene-centric and very, centered on their experience and not on the camera's experience. So they need to imagine more. They need to imagine the other person's there. And the imagination is our most powerful creative tool. I can't believe that, it's sort of been left out of the equation for them. So you imagine more, you make believe more, and it'll tap into your heart, it'll tap into your soul, it'll create emotion. When we imagine things, that's when emotions are created. If I'm telling you the story, sorry, about my dog dying 10 years ago, and I well up with tears, well, why did that happen? Not because I was telling you facts, but because I was imagining the experience I had 10 years ago. And so the imagination, if you activate the imagination, you'll activate the actor's heart, and then they'll have that emotional experience they are used to getting with the other character. They need to make believe more. And casting directors will say all the time, make a choice, make a choice, make a big choice, make a choice. And the actor's going, I am making a choice, I'm playing the scene. And they're saying, no, we don't, that's not what we're talking about. And it's because they're just stuck inside of them. So that's a big key to creating on camera.
Yes. And as a headshot photographer, that's what I try to get my actors to do is, hey, I get it. It's you and me in the studio, but you got to imagine, how does this character, because Because if you're not feeling it, I can't capture it. And if you're not feeling it, the camera is not going to capture it during the scene when you're on set. So you absolutely agree. You hit that right on the nail.
Well, you said it better in fewer words than I did, but you're right. If they don't, if we can't see it, the camera can't see it and capture it. And
exactly.
they don't imagine it, the camera can't capture it.
That's, I love that. I love that. Okay. So, what are some tips about how actors move their eyes on camera? It's a little different than the other question.
Yeah, it is different. One, don't. They move their eyes way too much. I'm sure I've said this before in our talks. They need to watch film and television with the volume muted. And they're going to be astonished. And they're going to say to themselves, there's three things they'll say to themselves. One is, no one's moving. Because it's art, it's composition. And it looks real and believable. Like we said, that's the art of photography. The other thing they'll think is, oh my gosh, the character is there, whether or not they're speaking. I can see the character and I can see something going on inside of them that's not on the page, not in the dialogue. So those three things. But the first thing is that you don't see a lot of eye movement on camera now because they were taught acting is reacting. Then they're used to reacting a lot. And they need to realize, for the most part, you're not moving a lot. Your eyes aren't moving a lot because, my gosh, that's how we're telling the story. The eyes are everything. The audience is watching the movie or the TV show, and we all do this. We're always looking at the eyes of the characters. That's what we're always looking at.
It's a human nature.
Yes, and it's the art of film, So if your eye's moving all over the place, you're just pushing the audience away and saying, don't pay attention to my character, don't pay attention to my character. But they're trying to do all of these reactions. And for the most part, they're going to be moving your eyes very, very long. The more you're moving your eyes in a reaction, which I think this person is talking about, the more you're moving your eyes in the reaction, the less real and less believable you look on camera. And the weaker you are, and you just look like you don't know what you're doing. So it's weird because they're not used to doing it, but they need to. That's part of the art form. Here's what I think is a reaction. I mean, on camera, they have to think about this. On camera, acting is not reacting, acting is hinting. So for instance, if you and I are talking and you have a dialogue, and I'll pause for a second, and then I'll show you a reaction on camera. So you're talking and I go, that's a reaction on camera. It's that small. Or I just go, maybe look down briefly. I mean, it's tiny, it's micro movements. And so you're moving very, very little, if at all. Reactions are inside. The other thing I'll say about that is transitions on camera happen in their eyes and reactions happen in the eyes. So they should try this sometime. They go to the bathroom and look in the bathroom mirror like they were brushing their teeth, and they stare at themselves in the mirror, and they can generate a feeling of anger, and then without moving a muscle, let themselves go from anger to sadness. And they're going to see that transition happen in their eyes. So they're used to playing transitions, but on camera, the transition will happen in the eyes because the camera will be right there. And the other thing is slowly. If you're going to move your eyes, slowly. If I want to look down or something, I'm going to go. And it's a slower movement. Movements in general are slower on camera. If they want to be natural on camera, they want to almost move in slow motion, but talk at a normal speed. So as much as possible, you feel and you think internally, but then you let the camera into your eyes to experience it. They really have to get past all of that eyes darting all over the place because they're trying to come across natural. Nothing looks more fake.
And it's noticeable when you see something from a new actor that's not that trained and they're like all over the place. It's very noticeable and it's very distracting. You're like, okay, I can't even take you serious. I can't even get into this. I can't get into that. I can't get into what you're saying because I'm like, what are you seeing over there? What's going on?
Well, it doesn't look believable. It
Yeah.
just doesn't look believable.
Yeah.
They look fake. They look like an actor acting, and they think they're being real and spontaneous and natural. But actors have to really rethink the idea of naturalism on camera, because exactly what you just demonstrated is like naturalism on camera, and naturalism doesn't work on camera.
Yeah.
You, as a photographer, naturalism's a mess.
Yeah. And, that's as a photographer, oh, I don't like to pose. I want natural shots. Well, okay. Have Uncle Joe do that. Those are called snapshots. They're not, they're not great. And that is a specific style. But if you want something to convey a message, there is posing involved. There is turn your body this way because that looks good on camera. And that's the same with acting. What looks good on camera is what's important.
Yes, none of their favorite actors, anyone watching this vlog, none of their favorite actors in film and television um, uh, uh, create naturalism on camera. They don't. It's an art form. It's
Uh-huh.
like dance, it's like poetry, it's like singing, but none of them are naturalistic. Otherwise, they would be cut out of the movie. And so they may look natural on camera. That's why I say watch things with the volume muted. You'll be astonished how little they're moving, but they love the idea of being natural. And you're right. Whether it's a movie or a photography session, you're not going to get anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because they're on Instagram all the time posing. So
Right.
they understand that it works for Instagram. They just don't understand that it works for their career.
Exactly. This is your career. You should definitely think that. Okay. Is it helpful for actors to watch playbacks of themselves after filming a scene?
Oh, I don't know. I think that probably differs from actor to actor. Um, some people, obviously, we know they can't stand it because they'll become self-conscious and they won't be able to,
Concentrate going
they
forward.
won't be able to concentrate. Um, Other people I know do watch it. I really just think it matters. Whatever's good for your process.
Yeah.
It's going to help your process to look at your footage, and you're going to create better footage the next time. Great. If it puts you in your head and you start feeling self-conscious, which I imagine a fair number of people, I think I would, be very self-conscious if I was in that situation. So it's entirely up to them. Whatever is good for their process. There's no rule there.
No rule there. Okay. All right. Should a director know what kind of shots they want in the scene before filming, or should they figure it out during filming?
Both. They should have an idea of the shots they want so that they can put the movie together and tell the story, but then they should walk onto the set and don't be afraid to start being creative. That blueprint you walked onto the set with is your safety net. And then, so you now get to be creative. You'd have to be extremely experienced, I think, to make up a shot list on the set and figure all that out. But you do have a team of people like a script supervisor, et cetera, who are going to tell you if it cuts together or not. But I think, be prepared. And I know some directors who think that way. They they get all prepared and then they throw it away. But they have it in case they need to, because you need to cut the movie together, obviously. So I think, yeah, be prepared and then experiment. Absolutely. And then get creative.
As a photographer, which is totally different than filmmaking, but this is all I know. So I know that when I go into a headshot session, in my head, I know I have a list of things that, I'm going to do. And then when the person actually gets there and we start, then I may not do anything that I thought I was going to do because you see how they're reacting to the camera and you're like, oh, actually, I didn't expect that. That's great. I can do this. Or, ooh, this is going to take a lot more time. We've really got to work on this. And I would imagine it would be kind of the same. I mean, I don't know. It may not be as much because, by the time you get to that point, you already know what caliber of actors you're working with and how they create. But I don't know. That was my 2 cents. I just wanted to say something.
No, no. But I think it's the prepared shot list that allows
Yeah.
it's the thing that allows you to be creative on set.
Know the rules so that you can break them. Know the rules so that you know what you can. That's what I always say as a photographer. You got to know the rules of photography. That way you know which ones is okay to break. It's, you have an idea, but be prepared to throw it out. I like that. Okay. All right. I'm losing track here. I should be calling out numbers so I don't lose track. Okay, that was 6. How do directors hire casting directors? A casting director question. I like that.
Well, I think it's a very personal relationship, but they'll hire somebody who's good at casting a certain kind of project. Like I'll tell actors all the time, when you go to these casting director workshops, if they're still doing them, they must be doing them online now. When you go to a casting director workshop, the way you play your scene should be dependent on what the casting director has cast in the past or what they're used to casting. So everyone has sort of a signature. So the casting director will have a signature of the kind of things they like to cast. And I'll tell actors, then do your scene like it belongs in that TV show or that movie, because then you'll look like, they'll say, oh my gosh, next time they'll grab you. And I think it's the same with directors. They'll hire a casting director who's experienced with a certain genre or style, if it matches the movie. But then when I say it's a personal relationship, they're looking for somebody who has a keen eye for, unique talent or the kind of acting the director likes, who can find the really good people, so that it's not just, I need this type and I need this type and I need this type. Somebody who knows what's really interesting on camera and can find those people who are like a natural or well experienced in such a way that they know how to create cinematically, and they're looking for someone who looks like they belong in a movie or a TV show, like we talked about. That's a lot of it. But I think it's they're looking for people, they trust the casting director's eye when it comes to finding someone who just is experienced on camera or understands the camera or is natural on camera, because it'll save the director time and they'll create something unique. I think if actors want to be unique, they need to learn the things we're talking about right now, how to use the camera and how to create for the camera, so their uniqueness can come out. And that's kind of what casting directors are looking for. So I think directors, they team up with casting directors who think that same way.
I mean, a director normally has a specific way they tell stories.
Yeah.
And casting directors have a specific way that they tell stories, so they're able to, so I think it's, like you said, it's personal. You're going to have to find that person that you gel with that understands how you tell stories, so they can help you tell your story.
Right. Yeah. And it's relationships too.
All right. Is it ever appropriate for actors to approach directors about getting cast in a project, or should it always go through the casting director?
My first answer off the top of my head is no, it's not appropriate. You should go through the casting director. I think just because directors are probably inundated and they don't want to be inundated, or they're in their own, they have to think all the time and concentrate all the time. And they don't certainly want to be approached when they're at a restaurant or at a screening or something like that. So I would say always go through the casting director. That being said, if you, for some reason, find yourself in a conversation with the casting director and you're having a good conversation and you sort of click as humans, then I think it's appropriate. Or if the director has seen you work in something. But I caution them not to approach the director, because you might be brilliant As far as the director knows, you're just another actor coming up to them, and there's a sense of protocol. But like I said, if you're in an event with a director and there's a conversation going and you guys click, the director might be completely open to it. So you just have to figure it out, have good people skills.
I think it goes to people skills, because I think that if you approach a director with a give me, help me attitude, it's a turnoff, whether it's a director or, you know, the guy at the gas station. Like, you know, it's a turnoff to another human. But if you're already in a conversation, a give and take conversation, and it's appropriate, that's, you know, so that's.
Yeah, you make me think of something that I tell actors all the time. And look, it's a challenge for them to get in the door and get auditions and get noticed. So they're going to grab any opportunity they can. But you're right. It shouldn't be, what can you do for me? I say it's not what you can do for me. It's what can I do for you? So if you find yourself on a set, just know that everybody on the set is probably has a film project they want to get done. The DP, the sound person, everyone has something. And you should start asking the question, what can I do for you? If you're ever doing something and you need help with anything, is anything I can do? That's much more attractive than, what can you do for me? Can you give me this? Can I audition for you? And I don't think they think about that. So a film set is one of the best places to hook up with someone who's also a director and doing a project, because everyone's doing projects these days.
Exactly. And when you help them solve their problem, you know, it's a way better way of approaching it than help me, give me. So,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Okay. Do actors tend to be better directors?
Well, we all know stories of actors turn directors and they're quite good, you know. So I think it depends on the individual. I don't think in general actors make better directors. They can. And these days, everyone's doing everything. Everyone's an actor, director, writer, producer, which is fantastic. We should all be doing everything. But I don't think just because you understand the actor process, you're going to be better with working with actors on camera, or you're going to be a better director. I don't think it translates that way at all. And if that's where the question comes from, that they're thinking, you know, they're thinking, well, that actor would understand the actor's process, then they don't understand filmmaking, because a lot of it is not about, you know, the actor may be the thing on camera for 95% of the time, but they're 5% of the production equation, and it doesn't translate as fast that way. So I think it depends on the individual. It really depends on the individual. Some people are great actors and then great directors, and other people are actors and then they direct and then they never want to direct again. But they realize it's more than just, you know, working with the actors. So I think it depends.
Yeah. And filmmaking is a big, everybody counts. The light person counts, the cameraman counts, the editor. I have seen really rough acting, and the editor somehow pieces it together to make something beautiful out of it. So yeah, I can see where if they're already have that tendency to be a good director, that maybe having the opportunity to act would help them in that, but it wouldn't necessarily be if they don't have that tendency to be a good director, acting isn't going to make them a good director. It's basically it.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Final question. Are you ready? Drum roll. Should actors have a private discussion with their director about how they each like to work before the filming starts?
Sure, that couldn't hurt. I wonder where that question comes from. I guess so. Sure. If that question comes from the actor wants to make sure the director knows the actor's process, sounds like someone's a control freak. But I think what you should do is have a conversation about character and backstory and history and story. I think once you get into having a conversation about my process and your process, it sounds like we're checking up on each other. And I could be wrong. That's just the way I think about it. I think, why would you do that?
When I read this question, I thought in my head, I was like, because I have sometimes people come into the studio and they tell me how they want the photo shoot to go. And it's like, in a nice kind way, in my head, what I'm saying is, you worry about you. You let me worry about me. And this to me kind of sounds like that, but I could be wrong. I don't know where they're coming from, and I don't want to insult the question because sometimes in text questions get twisted. But maybe what they're asking is like, so they fully understand what the director's thinking so that they can, move it forward. That could be the way they're thinking about it as well.
Well, then I would have the conversation about character and story and director's vision versus I want to make sure, versus how do you work and here's how I work. Yeah. And that could be coming from the fact that some directors don't know how to direct actors. And at the same time, a lot of actors don't understand filmmaking. But I would have conversation about the other things, and then if process comes up in the meantime, then that's fine. But I think that the director is going to back off. I think if it's the actor generating that conversation, I think the director is going to back off.
Well, and being on the opposite side of the camera, not much. I have DP'd a couple of projects, but it's busy behind the scenes. Like we're busy. We've got a lot of things going on in our head. So it would really go back to people skills. Do they have 50 million things going on their head, and you're coming up trying to like, hey, I need your private time. That's tough for anybody because they're trying to get 100 things done. Maybe, I don't know. You've directed huge projects. So,
here's the thing: is makes me think about. Have those creative conversations, and if it can be about process, fine, but have those conversations before you get on set, because like you just said, they have 1,000 things going through their head and all the time, and you're not going to get onto set and have those creative exploratory conversations with the director. You might talk a little bit about story and character, but it's mostly let's capture footage. So if you love the idea of exploring with the director and delving into the character, definitely plan on doing that ahead of time. There might be time set aside for rehearsals where it's basically having that conversation, but you're not going to have the kind of rehearsal with a director that you have in theater, where you're just really sinking your teeth in and spending lots of time and lots of exploring. And along those same lines, and this is my sort of response to the question about process, is the director's process isn't important to the actor. The actor's process is important to the director. The director is hiring you if you know how to take her or his vision or the story ideas you discuss and make it look like a movie. So if you're concerned about what's the process going to be for us to get my work to look like it belongs in a movie, then you shouldn't be in the movie. Your job is to figure out how to make your work look like it belongs in a movie. And that's what the audition process is. Most directors are not going to hire you if you don't know how to do that already. So if you're concerned about the process between director and actor being the way your work's going to end up looking really good on camera, and that's what you're concerned with, you're probably not going to be on that set, because they're only going to hire people who can do that on their own. So I would not worry about all of that. I would figure out how to make your work look like it belongs on camera to begin with in the audition.
Very good. Well, John, that was all of the questions. Those are some great questions. I appreciate all the questions you guys sent in. Is there anything else that you wanted to, do you see why I cut you off? You were answering questions before I asked them, but is there anything else you want to say today before we close it off?
Oh no, I think that was wonderful. I look forward to next time.
Absolutely.
I'm already thinking about what we can talk about next time. So, but if anyone has any more questions, even if it's a couple of questions come in, we can always start the day with that.
We could always start with the question and then go into to our
And they were
thing.
great, and they were great questions. They were really great questions, and they made us think, and they made us, have a good dialogue. So anybody has any questions, send them in about anything. Absolutely.
Well, thank you again, John. I love having you in. I love that we're doing this every month. It's the highlight of my month. So I've got all your information down here where people can follow you. I hope that everybody is following you, reading your books, contacting you, taking your classes, and all of the above. So follow John. Make sure that you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and stay creative. Most importantly, have an amazing day. I'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.